G'day, Professor Joseph Drew. In this video, I'll tell you how rates work in New South Wales. I'm going to explain to you why we use unimproved land value and why it's a good rate base. I'm going to explain to you what a rate cap is, what happens when your land value goes up, and what a special rate variation is. So please hang on. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misconceptions about rates in Australia. There's a couple big things. First of all, people don't realise that rates are a tax. It's a tax that local government uses. So you're aware that the federal government has income tax and corporation tax and a whole heap of different taxes. State government also has a lot of different taxes, payroll tax, stamp duty, and the GST, which the federal government collects on their behalf. Local government only has one tax, and it's a tax on unimproved land value. And in the next slide, I'll explain why. So that's one big misconception. People don't realise that their rates are a tax. Second big misconception is people think that their rate should have something to do with the services that they receive. So you often hear farmers say, look, I shouldn't pay as much rates because I don't get bitumen roads, I don't get footpaths, I don't get street lights, I don't get water, I don't get sewer. That is a fundamental misconception. Taxes are not a fee for service. For starters, water and sewer, people in town actually pay charges and fees to cover the cost of the waters and sewer on top of their rates. So the fact that you're not getting them is neither here nor there because you're not paying for it. Second of all, no tax system works in the way that people are conceiving. No tax system works whereby you only pay tax if you get stuff off the government. That's not how taxes work. Tax is a moral obligation. It's part of the fee of membership into a community. So for instance, I live at Moombi. I don't get any state government services. Yet I pay the same GST as everyone else in Australia when I go to Woolies to buy my chocolate bar. I don't get a discount on my GST because I get nothing from the state government. I pay the same state government GST tax as everyone else. Same with federal taxes. I get absolutely nothing in Moombi. I guess we get the highway. I don't have a courthouse or Reserve Bank of Australia or anything else in Moombi. I get nothing. Yet I pay the same income tax as everyone else in Australia, perhaps probably more because I'm on a high income. I don't get to say to the federal government, hey, I'd like to pay a tenth of the income tax that I pay because you give me nothing. It's not how taxes work. Taxes are a moral obligation as part of your membership in a community. So it is not a fee for service. So forget about that. So an unimproved land tax, where does it come from? It comes back to a person called Henry George. He visited Australia. It was a very important visit back in 1890. He was a natural law philosopher from America, but he was married to an Australian lady called Matilda, so he had a lot of connection to this country. And he proposed a one tax scheme, and his idea was to tax the amount, the wealth that people were gaining through doing nothing. He didn't want to tax your income that you earned through your hard work because he saw that as being a disincentive for people to work hard and basically not fair. Why should the money you earn through working your guts out, why should that be taxed by the government? He'd rather tax money you hadn't earned. And that's why he landed on unimproved land tax. So basically, as he said, if you buy a block of land, you do nothing, don't even mow it, do absolutely nothing to it, it'll go up in value. Why is it going up in value? Maybe because of migration or population growth, or maybe a new industry has landed up in town, it's created employment and lots of people want to move there, or maybe there's a new railroad or a road or an airport, and that's made the place more desirable and that's increased the value of your land. And he's saying, well, why should you get to keep that extra money? You did nothing to earn it. You certainly shouldn't whinge if the government taxes that and takes some of that back to give to the community, to invest in the sort of infrastructure which actually creates the wealth for you in the first place. So an unimproved land tax is actually a really good, morally good tax, much better than the GST, much better than the income tax. And I'm glad we have it as our tax base in local government, and I wish that a lot of our other government tiers of government used a tax system that was much more morally defensible. Unfortunately, there's a couple problems with an unimproved land tax, and it's mainly because of the way we've implemented it in New South Wales and through most of Australia. We haven't done it properly. What we should be doing is taxing the increase in land value, but we tax the whole land value. which is wrong and undermines the whole moral philosophy behind a land tax. And also in New South Wales, we have rate capping. So what that means is the council is capped to the total amount of tax it can take every year. The state government, through the Independent Pricing and Regulatory Tribunal, sets a percentage by which the total tax take of a council can increase by, and they can only increase it by that percentage. Now what that means is if the land values shoot up because maybe we get an international airport in Walcha and everyone wants to move to Walcha, it's not actually going to make any difference to the total tax take of Walcha Council, because it's been capped artificially by this rate capping regime, and the cap is whatever IPART says it is. Last year it was 0.7%, this year it's 3.7%. So if your land value goes up, it won't make any difference to the amount of total taxes that your council gets. It might make some difference to your personal tax liability, local government tax liability, if your land value goes up by more than everyone else's. So basically how it works is we've got a total tax take we're allowed to take, and we divvy up the total tax burden according to the total unimproved land value of all the different properties in a council area. So we have the longest running rate cap regime in the country in New South Wales. It started in 1975. It used to be the minister that used to set the rate cap every year, and they realised after a while that wasn't very politically popular, so they offloaded it to poor old IPART, who now gets to set the rate cap, and they cop a bit of flack every year when they come up with it, but it's a very hard job, and there's so many competing interests, and the legislation's so muddled about what they're actually supposed to be achieving with this rate cap. Now, rate caps generally aren't sufficient to meet council's needs. So, as I said, last year it was 0.7%. That's during an inflation environment of 5.1% if you look at CPI. So in real terms, we were probably giving residents a tax discount in their local government taxes of around 4%, which is pretty ironic because the state government was enjoying their taxes going up astronomically, because one of their big sources of taxes, GST, and it's charged on the price of goods and services. Prices were going up because of inflation. The ABS told us at the time it was 5.1%. Therefore, their taxes was going up. Same state government turns around and says, local government, hold up, you can only put your taxes up by 0.7%. So this is why there's a lot of controversies about rate cap, but please don't blame IPART. They're stuck with a methodology that doesn't work. They're stuck with legislation that's muddled and muddle-headed. They're doing the best that they can. As a result of insufficient rate caps, what we often have to do are these special rate variations, which is what Walcha is going through now. So I hope this video has clarified a lot of misapprehensions about rates. It's a terribly confused area right throughout the country. Look, just remember, it is a tax. It's a local government tax, and it's got nothing to do with what you receive from council. It's your obligation to the community, just like your income taxes, just like your GST. Rate capping does mess up the really good philosophical foundation for an unimproved land tax. It is a complicated process, and it has been insufficient for many years now, and that's why a lot of councils in New South Wales are in deep financial trouble, and that's why they have to go through processes like the special rate variation. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.